Okay, so the concept behind DSM is it's come out of the fact that lots of medical organizations love to have algorithms inside their guidance, but really when they say algorithm, they mean a flat one-dimensional flowchart that
Right.
is hard to read, hard to understand, and hard to follow.
Yep.
And also, when you're trying to look at that kind of image on a mobile phone, it actually gets exponentially harder to read and follow
Yep.
because they're not designed for it. And in fairness, also, people who are writing this guidance aren't the kind of people that would design an algorithm to be used inside a mobile phone anyway.
Exactly. And just if I may interrupt, that's one of my kind of additional roles is to take the content that was written kind of a narrative form, right, meant to be read and kind of accessed in a document and edit it and make it more navigable and so on. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Absolutely spot on. And when we looked at this, we took a lot of clinical input in terms of this. So let me just start by going to the end, so to speak. I've got a live piece of guidance here in the UK that's got an algorithm in it, and I want to show you something in here. And I can share this guide with you if you'd like to see the link to it, so you can have a play yourself later.
Okay.
But inside here, when they look at community-acquired pneumonia, there are, at the top of this tree, there are two conditions. One is the algorithm, which I'll come to in a minute. But actually, this is what it's replacing. So this is a piece of guidance on community-acquired pneumonia. And as you can see, you know, we very much preach less is more in terms of condition building and creation. And I know the guy that wrote this very well. He completely subscribes to this. But this is as less as it can be.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're looking at this, and again, bear in mind, looking at a mobile phone, you've got limited time. You're at a patient's bedside. You're trying to figure out whether they've got a penicillin allergy. You're trying to figure out what type of community-acquired pneumonia they've got in terms of severity. This is not helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
Not helpful, but it's as helpful as it's going to be. And bear in mind, again, I'm talking about antibiotics here, but it could relate to anything.
Sure.
Okay? So we replaced that with this. And basically then you pick the context, if you like, for this patient, and it provides you with the answer at the bottom.
Nice. Okay. Perfect.
And then if you want to rearrange it or change it, and again, there are lots of different if you just choose different solutions or different options, then it will automatically give you different variations at the end. Okay. And if you're, for whatever reason, not clear about why severity is being asked for, you click on the eye and it gives you the details of severity and why it's here and what it means, and in this case, PubMed references as you see fit.
Yep.
Okay. So we built it with this kind of context in mind, and you'll see also it's mapping the left-hand side of the screen, and that's by default because we want it to look exactly the same in the web viewer as it does on the mobile phone. Right? So if you go to this guide and go to this condition, you will see exactly this working in exactly the same way. Why? Because it is exactly the same code, right?
Right.
So there's no ambiguity and no possibility for difference between the algorithm that you create and import between one medium of presentation and another. It is identical. It is absolutely the same information.
Okay.
So this is proving really popular and working very well. And yeah, it started in antimicrobial, but it's just an algorithm scaffolding, all right? So you can use it for whatever you want, okay?
Yep.
There are some by design constraints, which I'll talk you through, but actually it's designed to be pretty straightforward. When I was given the task, if you like, to build something like this inside our content management system, I did like what most designers usually do, is I over-engineered it to begin with. And when I looked at it in detail and came back to it, I found that what I'd actually built was really a flow chart and a process flow mechanism inside content management, which would have worked, but actually would have been extremely difficult to teach people to use and cumbersome. Right?
Sure.
So after that first iteration, I changed the design method completely. And what we now have is this. This is a spreadsheet, or rather, to be more specific, a workbook that is a template, and this is all you need to create any algorithm in any guide.
Perfect.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the process to get an algorithm into the content management system, and then show you how to iterate it. Okay? So far, so good?
Yes, awesome.
So what we do is that it became really clear that if we wanted to make this successful and easy to use and easy to manage and maintain, we needed to give you the easiest way to create these algorithms and easiest way to get them in and test them and publish them.
Mm-hmm.
So we've come up with a workbook format that's got 5 tabs. And by the time you finish these 5 tabs, you have a working algorithm. What you'll then do is import this algorithm into the content management system, at which stage you'll be able to see it and test it as if it was live. And then you can iterate it all you like by going back to the workbook, modifying the workbook, importing it again, and it'll overwrite what was there. And then all you need to do is place the algorithm where you want it to appear inside Edit Navigation, inside your guide, and you're good to go.
Okay.
Okay? It really is as simple as that.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. So let me walk you through the workbook.
Okay.
And is this visible enough for you? Can you see it okay? Is the screen resolution okay?
Yeah, it's great. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so really, these are fixed fields here on the left-hand side: name, questions, permutations, and regimens. So basically, there are a couple of restrictions here. So what you need to put into this field is not just the name of the algorithm, but how you want it to appear inside Edit Navigation or in your guide. Okay? Why it's important is because this is a link to that source data. There's a lot of JavaScript that's based behind this. And this is the key, that's the link to that piece of information. Okay. Do not change the name of this label in Edit Navigation like you could with any other, because you'll then lose the link to the algorithm.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So if you want to change the name, by all means, change the name in here, import the same spreadsheet, and it will overwrite the name that was there already.
Okay.
But this is the name that will appear inside Edit Navigation, and you need to leave it fixed once you've done it. Okay.
Yep.
So, as a summary page, this is really a test for us to make sure that we've got all the data that you've entered. We want to know how many questions you're going to have, right? So, in this case, it's 5. Think carefully about the questions that you have, because what you really don't want to do, if you can avoid it, is particularly for your mobile users, is to have too many questions which are scrolling off the bottom of the screen. Yeah. Right. So 5/6 is really your optimum. And even 6 might be too many for certain types of devices. Okay. But 5 is optimum, but 6 certainly works. Okay. Then you have the number of permutations. Well, don't worry about that too much now, because I'll give you a very simple formula that shows you how to calculate the number of permutations. And this is the only complexity to building this model. Okay. But you can come back and put the number of permutations in later. Similarly, it wants to know the number of regimens. So in other words, how many answers are there? Right? Again, you may not know that to begin with until you've finished the model. So you can come back and put that in later. Okay. Okay. So then we go to the next tab, which is questions and answers. Here again, the left-hand screen, left-hand column A, keep it locked. And what it's looking for, it's a simple matrix of question by answer. All right. There is no limit to the number of answers that you can have. But again, think about how it's going to look in terms of user presentation. We think that 2 is obviously a minimum, but 2 to 4 work well. And again, think about the content that you put in, or the length of the answer in that screen, because it's going to create a box inside the app and on the web viewer as well. Okay. So here you're saying, how many questions are you having, and what is the question? Okay. Keep it short, punchy because they'll know what you mean. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Pregnancy is a good example, right? Then your answers come in a direct line on that row, pregnant or not pregnant, or in this case, no allergy, non-severe allergy, or severe allergy.
Yep.
Okay? So far, so good?
Yes.
Okay. This is where we can work out really simply, based upon the number of questions and answers that you have, how many potential permutations there are. All right? And it's a really simple piece of permutational maths. All you need to do is put down the number of answers there are for each question, and then multiply them all together. And there's your answer.
Got it.
So from those number of questions and answers, you have 48 potential permutations.
Yep.
Okay? Now, the only complication with this is that not every permutation from all of those questions and answers is valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll come to that in a little while, okay?
Okay.
But you can take that number, you can take that calculation, and you can put it directly into the front page for the number of permutations.
Okay.
Okay? So if I go back here now, then I could populate that with 48 because I know how many it is after I built out the questions and answers. Okay?
Yep.
So then when we come to the permutations page, I've color-coded it here to show you how to set something like this out. And basically what you do is that there's a logical way for you to build out the number of permutations so you can easily see that you've covered all of them. All right? Mm-hmm. Now in this case, 5 questions with a combination of 2-3 answers, there are 48. And you can see here that if I have number 1 is first row is calculate or is covered, so we have 48 permutations here. And this is where we link the number of permutations to the answers. And you can see here on the left-hand side, for every individual permutation, it is connected to a regimen. And that regimen is basically the answer that you want displayed if somebody taps those 5 options on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
And if I skip to the condition data, which is here, these are the regimens themselves.
I see. Okay.
So we can see that there are 11 regimens in total, 1 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the information that we provide in the app when somebody hits the combination of buttons that equals regimen number 1 in the permutation screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then on a permutation by permutation basis, you just decide which answer is provided, and that's how it works.
I see. Okay.
And this is empirical, obviously. All right?
Yeah.
So once you've done your permutations, you know how many there should be. I would probably I would create the permutations first, obviously, and then I would come and do the condition data after that, so you know how many answers there are, and then go back and associate the condition answers with the permutations.
Okay.
All
and
right?
This is the setting up the permutations is a manual process, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I played with building a macro inside Excel to do it, or a little bit of Visual Basic, and we probably could do that. Here's the thing. A lot of networks block that kind of stuff because they're so worried about viruses and other bits and pieces. They won't even let me run it if it comes inside the app. You may even not be allowed to, I may not even be allowed to email you the spreadsheet if it's got a bit of VB or a macro in it. So it does cause a bit of a problem. Okay. But that's why I put the permutation list there. And depending upon the number of questions, you can use this as a template to give you an idea of exactly how it would work.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine that this is, I would put this in the hands of the physician or the author to draft all the different variables or permutations.
Exactly right.
Or even import them, directly into the spreadsheet. Right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. All you need to do is make sure you have them in this format before you import it, and you're good to go.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So, and what you could do, what would be easy to do, is maybe to build a very simple slide deck showing people the order in which you need information in order to complete the spreadsheet.
Right. Okay.
So you then have your condition data, which we've created, right, specifically for this particular type of community-acquired pneumonia.
Yep.
And then depending upon what people select, and this is the answer that they receive. Okay? So there's one final piece of information, and I'm just going to flick back here. So, you know, when I click on the I button for severity,
Yes.
it gives me information about the question of severity. Why am I asking this question? What does it mean? Okay.
Yep.
And that data is held in here, in the info data.
Okay.
So for question 1, all right, specifically about severity, question 2, question 3, question 4, etc. Okay. So you don't have to put this information in, but if you do, this is the data that will be made available to your clinician when they click on the I button, either in the web viewer or the app.
Okay.
Now, there's one thing that you should see here is that we've given, or we've made this content what we call rich. So in other words, when you look at it in the web viewer, you want to be able to see bold, or you want to be able to see hyperlinks, okay?
Yes.
And that's not the simplest thing to do with standard Excel, all right? But what Excel does take and work with very well is what's called wiki markup. Have you used wiki at all?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay. I meant to bring it up on the screen here. Just let me just go and have a quick look. I should be able to get it very easy. There you go. So basically, there's a full list of all the functions that you can do and you can use inside the wiki markup language to modify your info data here inside Excel.
Nice. Okay.
So you'll see that I've got multiple quotes here to make it bold. And what's great about wiki is that it's more or less WYSIWYG. You can see how it will look before it comes out. Okay.
So when you added the quote marks, for example, does that text automatically bold, or did you manually have to bold it?
No, I don't believe I manually bolded that. I can check that for you, but I don't believe so. No, I didn't. It's the quotes that actually, it's the wiki markup that changes that to bold for you.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. And we've even put in things here like references and links. Okay. Using the wiki syntax to do it. Okay. So it's reasonably sophisticated compared to what most people will need.
Nice,
but that then is interpreted and parsed by us on the way in, and the format is retained. So anything that you put in there with wiki is what you will see then inside the guide when it's published.
Okay.
Okay. So and that's really the only advanced feature or function that there is inside the algorithm right now.
Right.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and so the formatting right here, for example, that you're showing, that's automatic. That sets up to the screen width of a mobile device.
Yes, and that's a function called text wrap. Okay, so the text wrap is automatically managed based upon the availability of screen. Okay, so for instance, if this sentence was the width of the screen, then it would use that screen. All right. But if it was on a mobile device and it only came to here, then it would text wrap to the next line automatically.
Okay, so it optimizes to the size of the mobile screen.
Yes, to each individual device automatically, because of course every device now is a completely different screen size.
Yes, right. Okay.
All right. And that's why, you know, when you're looking at your number of answers, for instance, it will text wrap these answers onto the next line. So if you had a fourth one here, but the screen width was here, it would most likely show 2 and 2. All right. So it will do its best to make it look neat and tidy for you.
Okay.
All right.
Now, are you able to apply color through wiki text?
Anything that's available in wiki markup, you can apply.
Okay. All right.
All right. And one thing that you should also notice as well, it may not be as relevant for you as it might be for your clinicians, but I just want to point this out. Let me just go and have a look at this condition data.
Okay.
See which one exactly I'm looking at. Here we go. Or is it? It might be another one. No, it's from a different sheet, so it's not going to match here exactly. But what I'm trying to get to is that where you have drug names in your answers, what we do when we import the sheet is we parse all the info or the condition text looking for those drug names.
Yeah.
Because if we find them, then we automatically turn them into hyperlinks so that they can link to any supplemental data that you may have already put into the content management system.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
And also, if that drug has a particular color, like this one, for instance, trimoxazole, this is a drug that is not an issue for penicillin allergic patients. So it's marked green in the drug database. So we've automatically marked it green here too. Right? And you can go from here to look directly at that drug if you want to, and the basis information is provided for it. And then just skip back to the content if you want.
Okay.
Okay? So that happens automatically on the way in. So if this drug is in your drugs database, it will automatically be hyperlinked to any supplemental data that's related to that drug in the context of that guide.
Okay, nice. Okay.
Okay. In terms of creating a DSM algorithm, you're done.
Yeah, that's great. That's pretty straightforward, but I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's have a look now. Just to remind you, before you're finished, go back and make sure that you update these two fields. So you've got the permutations, number of permutations, and the number of regimens sorted out. Okay. So I'm going to close this.
Now, is that a template that you can email to me? The Excel?
Yes, it is. Soon as the conversation's over, I'll have that in your inbox.
Okay, perfect.
All right. And what you should also know is that although this only went live in August last year, we're pretty comfortable with it in terms of its functionality and its resilience. But what we're in the middle of building right now is what we call a DSM library. So that DSM library will be available to every editor in the MicroGuide community. And if I just go in here for a second and log in, what you'll be able to see up here are two things actually coming shortly: a DSM library and a calculator library. The DSM library will show you every decision support algorithm that's been created, who it's been created by, what it does, and the spreadsheet that goes along with it will be available to you. And you'll then be able to see the algorithm live and have a play with it inside the content management system. And if you decided to use that algorithm, it's as simple as downloading that spreadsheet, modifying it to your particular requirements, and then importing it straight back into your guide.
Okay, great.
Okay. We've got a lot of interest in this stuff here. So that library is going to be full, I would say, this time next year with maybe as many as 60, 100 different types of algorithms.
Great, okay.
So what it will do is save you a lot of time creating new ones when the time comes. All right.
Right. Now, currently, everything's it's built to have fixed answers, multiple choice. There's no functionality with any kind of variable input, like patient weight, for example, like entering a specific weight as opposed to a range.
No, and that's really why you'd use a calculator instead, right? Yeah. So if you wanted something like that, we have probably about 30 different calculators inside MicroGuide at the moment. Okay. So everything from ideal body weight to things like creatinine clearance and vancomycin and gentamicin calculation, dosage calculators. Okay, body body surface area calculators and stuff like that.
And they can be.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. They can be embedded within a MicroGuide.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. So what we do, a bit of our own philanthropy, if you like, is that if you want a calculator, we'll build it for you. It's no charge.
Oh, okay, nice. All right.
We build them in HTML, and then we import them into MicroGuide, test them ourselves, and then make them available to you, and you associate them with a condition inside Edit Navigation. So when you have a condition that requires this calculator, then the calculator will be there as a link at the top of the page.
I see.
All right, and they're also available inside the viewer.
So you're brought to your server where the calculators reside.
Well, actually, on the app, the calculators are downloaded with the guidance, because at all times the guidance needs to work both online and offline, because hospitals are crap with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so the calculator is embedded in the guide as well as accessible via the condition. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
So to give you an example here, on the web viewer, you'll see there's a calculator button here. So at any time in the web viewer, you can go to any calculator. So there's an ideal body weight calculator, for instance. And if I put in height 177 and weight 67, it gives me ideal body weight. Okay.
Nice. So is it possible to show me quickly how I would, for example, embed that in?
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. So I'm logged in, okay, and if I go to guides, right, and I've got an adult antimicrobial guide here, that's in edit mode. And when it's in edit mode, you will see the edit navigation button. You'll only see it when you're in edit mode. Okay. So if I go into edit navigation, you see it's the collapsed version of the guide as it stands right now.
Yeah.
But let me just pick a condition. Let's pick something here. Let's say bone and joint, and let's see osteomyelitis. You'll see that there's a calculator column.
Oh, right. Okay.
And now I can just click in that box, and it shows me a list of all the valid calculators. And I can pick ideal body weight, and there it is.
Got it. Okay. I do remember Andrew showing this to me. We didn't go specifically into doing it, but he showed me the column. That's
no problem. No problem. So then I just save my guide, and that calculator is associated with that condition.
Yep.
And then, and you can associate the same calculator with as many conditions as you want, and you can associate up to 2 calculators with any one condition.
I see. And so then it shows up in the guide content as just that. It'll say like ideal body weight calculator.
Yeah, absolutely. At the top of the condition, you will see a hyperlink a nice blue square box that says ideal body weight calculator.
Okay, perfect.
And in the viewer, instead of showing it on a condition by condition basis up here, we just show you all the calculators in one place. Okay. And you can go.
Oh, actually, while you're on this screen, so the CAP antibiotic choice decision support. Does that appear when you're looking at this on the mobile device, or is that just okay? So how does that?
Because that is, and let me go back to what we were showing earlier.
That's the name you were talking about.
That is exactly right.
Okay. So how does it format when you're looking at it? Because it's centered now. Does it center above the?
It will always be centered automatically, so you don't have to worry about it.
Got it. That's why it's centered now, because the content below that adjusts to the screen size.
That's correct. That's correct. So these are anchored slightly differently between the app and the web viewer, but it is centered on the app, but you wouldn't necessarily recognize it because the screen width is so much smaller.
I see.
But it's as you would expect it to be.
Okay.
Okay, and bear in mind that when Kieran imported his spreadsheet, this is what he will have called the algorithm on that cell on that summary sheet. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the spreadsheet's called; it can be called whatever you want. But this is the name of the condition that he created for the algorithm. Okay.
Okay.
And that's how it'll appear inside Edit Navigation.
Got it.
Okay, we'll see that in a second. So I'm just going to save this and come out of here.
Okay.
So this is a good example, because this is more or less what VCU is going to look like in a period of time, although I doubt you'll probably have a Chinese guide in there.
Yeah, a little bit down the line. Yeah.
But you can have as many guides as you want. I think you've purchased 20, okay?
Yeah.
One thing to be aware of is that when we set up what we call guide permissions, editors will be in groups. If you consider like a Venn diagram, in different groups of editors where some will have rights to edit more than one guide, which is entirely feasible. When you log in, you will only see the guides that you have rights to access.
Okay.
So if this screen is quite cluttered, it's because I've got global access. But if I was a standard user and I had access to these two guides, I just wouldn't see the other ones.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can always see the content rights you have on any guide you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
So when DSM is turned on, which I've today turned on DSM for VCU, the first thing to remember is that it's not guide specific. So you can create as many algorithms as you want for any guide that you have.
Okay.
So there's nothing you need to do to set up DSM to work on any particular guide.
I see.
All right. And I'm going to take this guide, for instance, the adult microbial one.
Yep.
And what you will see now that DSM is turned on is that when the guide is in edit mode, you will see this button.
Yes.
Import matrix algorithm, which won't have been there before.
Yeah.
All right. So all you need to do is find the guide that your algorithm is going to be associated with, make sure it's in edit mode, and then click on this button.
Okay.
And when you click on import algorithm, it's saying, okay, I'm looking for an Excel file, just so you know. Tell me where it is. So I'm going to browse to it now. Find it, select it, and I can put a description if I want to, but I'm just going to import it.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Okay.
So if I now go back, we'll see two things. First of all, that this algorithm has been imported into this guide and is now associated with it. So now I want to know, well, okay, I want to see it. How does it look? Before I decide where it goes, I want to see what it looks like. So when you select this version of the guide, you'll now also see that you get a new button called Test Algorithm.
I see.
And if you click on the Test Algorithm button, it gives you a drop-down of any algorithms that you may have imported, because you can have obviously more than one.
Yep.
And if you click on the Test button, there it is.
Okay, nice.
So you can see now the direct relationship, the line of sight between the spreadsheet that you've just created and the algorithm that's being parsed and created for you. So let's have a play. I'm going to pick these items and see what it gives me. And there it is. There's my answer. Fantastic.
Okay.
So what you then do is you go back to your spreadsheet, and because you'll want to do this, is compare that permutation with that answer to make sure it's doing what it should be doing.
Right. Right.
And it will be. All right. So I wouldn't have any concerns over whether or not it's going to be pointing at the right answer. What you're going to be looking at here is, have I got the syntax right? Have I got the right buttons, the right length? Have I got the right names? And what I'm doing in here for this text, is it obvious enough? Does it make sense? And you can, of course, test this information as well. So when you want to see what the wiki data looks like, here it is.
Yep.
Okay. Click it on, click it off, or if you click one on and then click another one on, it collapses the previous one automatically. And that's what it does inside the app as well.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of iteration, when you see this and you see how it works, and let's say you find a typo or you're not comfortable with it, all you need to do is to go back into your Excel spreadsheet, modify it as you see fit, and import it again.
Okay.
And when you import it again, it will overwrite what was there, and then you can come back and test and carry on.
Okay.
So you can continue to iterate the one existing algorithm as often as you want.
Got it.
All right? So there's a couple of things I would say then in terms of housekeeping, right? And this will only really matter to you if you have multiple people editing and maybe publishing a guide at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is a multi-user system, so it's entirely feasible, right?
Yep.
If you're in the middle of creating or modifying or iterating an algorithm, and yet you have another part of your team that actually has a small change to make and they want to publish the guide now, and you're not ready, all you need to do is to go into Edit Navigation, and you'll find that your algorithm is more or less at the top of the page, okay? Completely independent from anywhere else. If you want to go ahead and publish your guide and leave this algorithm out because it's not ready, simply make it invisible.
I see.
Okay? Because sometimes algorithms take a little bit longer to get right, or maybe to get past through regulation or whatever it might be, and you don't want to hold up the rest of the guide being published.
Yeah.
Okay?
So the algorithm, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that when the guide is published and you create a new version, you'll be able to go back into Edit Navigation, turn it back on, and continue editing.
Okay. And so the guide appears at the navigation level as its own direct tab or link, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And but it's in this case no different than anything else. So if I wanted to put it down here and put it into body systems, it's really easy for me to do. Just move it down and then move it to the right and put it in exactly where it needs to be. Right?
Okay. And you said after I've imported it, it automatically appears at the top level. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. You will see it immediately at the top of your guide.
Okay.
All right.
So then there's
Bear in mind, as I said before, even though it's possible to modify this label, please don't.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask. So I'm not having to manually enter it. It'll automatically place it there. And
this is the text that you put into that field in the first worksheet in that workbook.
Okay.
Okay. So let's just move so you've seen it before. Let's just move this. What I want to do is I want to put this into, well, let's put it where it should be, into respiratory, right? So bear with me a second while this takes a little bit of time just to move it down the page. And you can see now that it's into community required. And what I want to do is, so I need to move it one that way. Is that enough? It might be. No, excuse me.
I'm going to have to step away one moment.
Yeah, sure. Be my guest. Be my guest.
How you doing? I have another meeting starting at in 15 minutes, just FYI.
Understood. Well, we'll be finished in 2 or 3. It's up to you. Just to show you what I've done here is what you do is you move this condition using the left and right arrows, so it's the same level as the conditions you want to move it into, and then get it underneath. It needs to appear underneath, and then you can move it in one layer more, and it will appear as a child of respiratory. Okay. And then if I don't want it to appear there, I want it to appear at the top, I can then just move it to wherever I want it to appear. So now I have moved it from where it was into respiratory, and I put it into the right layer in respiratory, and that's where it will appear in the guide. Okay. So, and that's about it.
All right. Well, this is great. This is.
Is that okay?
Yeah, this is, I mean, perfect explanation. It's really straightforward. I think it's going to, just the DSM in general is a pretty powerful addition to what you already have in place. So I'm looking forward to relaying this back to the content development team and see how they want to utilize it.
Sure. And listen, if you need any more help or others would like an explanation like the one I've just been through with you, you're more than welcome. It's not a problem.